It is 1993. A 22-year-old rapper named Tupac Shakur sits in front of a camera, defining the acronym Thug Life as the hate you give little infants. He was warning us about a terrifying future where neglected, traumatized youth would eventually reflect society's violence back at it with catastrophic results. He had no idea that 30 years later, a new genre of music would weaponize his prophecy. We view modern drill music as just another evolution of hip-hop, a gritty soundtrack to the streets of Chicago, London, and the Bronx. To the average listener, it is just aggressive party music. But through the lens of Tupac's warning, drill is not just entertainment. It is the final, most dystopian evolution of the street economy. It has perfected a system where actual human murder is gamified, and gang violence is no longer just a turf war, but a high-yield digital asset. Tupac warned that if we fed a generation nothing but hate and poverty, it would eventually detonate. Drill music did not just light the fuse, it built a billion-dollar empire around the explosion. This is how the modern music industry perfected the exact dystopian nightmare Tupac predicted over 3 decades ago. In his interviews, Tupac made it clear that thug life was not a celebration of criminality, but rather a tragic diagnosis. He argued that if you raise children in a war zone, surround them with systemic neglect, and offer them no economic way out, their trauma will inevitably become society's problem. Now look at the rise of modern drill music. Emerging from the poorest, most forgotten zip codes in America, drill stripped away the metaphors and poetry of traditional rap. There are no fictional mobsters or cinematic crime stories here. When you watch a drill music video, what are you actually looking at? You see teenagers holding real weapons with extended magazines. You hear them mocking the actual real-life murders of rival gang members by name, describing the exact street corners where the blood was spilled. To the average viewer, this is just shocking content designed to generate a reaction. But to Tupac's theory, these are the little infants reflecting the hate they were given. In a modern drill production, violence is never just a story. It is a visual effect designed to trigger a biological and algorithmic response. The tension comes when the line between a song and a crime scene completely vanishes. Think about it. When a 15-year-old rapper gets 1 million views for disrespecting a dead rival, we are not seeing musical expression. We are seeing a teenager's value reduced entirely to their willingness to kill or be killed. And the police are not just listening to these tracks. They are taking detailed notes. The escalation of drill music is not measured in record sales. It is measured in body bags and federal indictments. In 2022, prosecutors in the Bronx handed down a massive 65-count indictment against 22 alleged members of the River Park Towers gang, charging them with conspiracy to commit murder, attempted assault, criminal possession of a weapon, and animal cruelty. They did not just use wiretaps or confidential informants to build their case. They used the gang's own music videos as evidence. The crew had live streamed their crimes, boasting that if a broadcast hit 100 views, they would commit a violent act on camera. They hit the exact number. They beat a pigeon to death on Facebook Live, just to prove they would do much worse to their human rivals. This is where Tupac's warning becomes a visceral reality. The violence is no longer a byproduct of street life. It is the primary marketing strategy. Let us look deeper at how this operates. In Brooklyn, a rising star named T. Wu signed a highly lucrative recording contract. He had the viral dances, the millions of views, and the massive label backing, but his success was built entirely on a hyper-specific disrespect of local rivals. Just hours after signing the paperwork that should have saved his life and moved his family out of the hood, he was gunned down in front of his home. Drill artists are literally incentivized by the market to cross the point of no return. A song about a fictional shooting might get 10,000 views, but a song naming a rival who was murdered yesterday will get 10 million views. They are not going to the studio to make art. They are economically coerced into a death match. rappers are the workers, and their production is their own immediate jeopardy. The more danger they invite upon themselves, the more the algorithm rewards them. But the teenagers pulling the triggers are only half the story. The immediate consequence of this algorithmic blood sport is a generation completely decimated by their own ambition. Law enforcement has realized that they no longer need to infiltrate these gangs with undercover agents or complex sting operations. The artists are self-snitching in high definition. From the Bronx to Atlanta, massive racketeering cases are sweeping up dozens of young men at a time, using their lyrics and music videos as literal confessions in a court of law. The hate that Tupac warned us about has indeed destroyed everybody in its path. The neighborhoods are terrorized by stray bullets. The prisons are overflowing with young offenders, and the young men who thought they were rapping their way out of poverty are instead being handed life sentences based on their own streaming uploads. We have answered the surface level question. Drill music is the exact destructive harvest Tupac predicted. The infants grew up, and they burned their own village down just to feel the warmth of the fire. But here's the terrifying part that nobody wants to admit. The kids in the music videos going to prison or the graveyard are not the ones making the real money. To understand the true genius and horror of the modern drill economy, we have to look past the streets. We have to look at the people sitting in glass boardrooms, treating human life as a balance sheet. The violence is not a glitch in the music industry, it is the business model. When a drill rapper goes viral for a violent diss track, who actually owns that track? It is not the 15-year-old holding the prop gun. It is a multinational corporate record label. In the traditional music business, a label signed an artist, invested money to develop them, and hoped they became famous. The drill economy has entirely reversed this dynamic. Today, executives use software to track spikes in social media engagement and streaming numbers. They watch as a retaliation track goes viral on YouTube following a real-world conflict. Then they swoop in with a contract only after the digital engagement is proven. The major labels have outsourced the risk of artist development to the streets. The cost of a human life is simply a variable capital investment. The goal is to produce a song that generates a surplus value of 50 million streams. If the violence only generated 100 views, the executive would never offer the deal. The murder is only viable if it is marketable. And this creates a terrifying, self-sustaining feedback loop of death. Because the entire market value of a drill artist is tied to their street authenticity, they can never actually leave the war zone. If a rapper gets $1 million advance, buys a house in the suburbs, and stops beefing with his rivals, his streams plummet. Therefore, the corporate structure secretly demands that the artist stays in mortal danger. Let us look at the mechanics of this cycle. An independent rapper drops a violent track disrespecting a dead rival and gets signed. To recoup the massive cash advance, the label needs a bigger hit. The rapper goes back to the neighborhood, instigates a larger conflict on social media, and drops a new video. The rival gang retaliates with real bullets. The rapper survives, and the label rushes the next album to capitalize on the fresh hype. But what happens when the rapper does not survive? In the drill economy, a dead artist is the highest yielding asset of all. When a prominent drill rapper is killed, their streaming numbers skyrocket by hundreds of % overnight. The label does not mourn, they monetize. They release posthumous albums, sell memorial merchandise, and capitalize on a contract that the artist is no longer around to renegotiate. This is where it all comes together into a sickening corporate reality. The executives in high-rise buildings are acting as the ultimate capitalists, harvesting the raw material of urban trauma. They are selling tickets to a modern digital coliseum. Viewers become the consumers of this trauma, conditioned to treat real-world gang wars like reality television storylines. We watch the mental health of these teenagers decline. We watch paranoia take over, and we stream it on repeat. The more the artist suffers, the more wealth the song generates. But a system that requires constant human sacrifice eventually runs out of stars. This brings us to the most disturbing element of the entire drill economy, which is the reserve army of the streets. For every drill rapper who gets signed or killed, there are 10,000 desperate kids watching on their phones, realizing that violence is the only currency the world actually values. This is the mass of unemployed, marginalized youth that Tupac was talking about when he begged for society to change its ways. The system needs their absolute desperation to function. If these kids had well-funded schools, safe neighborhoods, and real economic opportunities, the drill music machine would completely collapse overnight. There would be no stakes to the music. The corporate spectacle relies entirely on the existence of a massive, suffering underclass willing to die for a microscopic chance at fame. We are not watching young men successfully escape poverty through art. We are watching a system that proves poverty is broken beyond repair. Tupac's acronym, Thug Life, was a desperate plea for intervention. He begged us to stop giving hate to the infants. Instead, corporate America figured out how to package that hate, put a heavy baseline behind it, and sell it on a global scale. We now have the full picture of this devastating machine. The executives hold the pen, the youth hold the guns, and the fans hold the play button. But as the indictments pile up and the bodies continue to drop, one massive piece of tension remains unresolved. When the federal government finally decides to treat these multi-billion-dollar record labels as organized crime syndicates, who will be the first executive to go to prison? The true architects of this violence are still hiding in plain sight, and as long as we keep streaming the trauma, they will keep funding the wars. If you found this fascinating, hit subscribe for more stories like this.